I've been hunting since I was a teenager, but I've never encountered anything like what happened to me and the boys in Hollow Grove. It's been over 10 years now, but I still wake up in the middle of the night, sweating, the smell of rot thick in my nose. We were grown men at the time, not kids. I was 31, Ray was 34, Joel was 28, and Ben, the youngest among us, had just turned 25. This was supposed to be a proper trip, just us getting away from our hectic lives for a few days, out in the middle of nowhere with nothing but guns, whiskey, and the peace and quiet of the forest. Ray had heard about this location from a local guide he met while working upstate. Hollow Grove, he said. A dense, unmapped patch of forest at the edge of nowhere. Not even park rangers go there. The kind of place where no signals reach, no trails exist, and no one expects to run into anything but deer and shadows. Sounded perfect. The plan was to set up camp, hunt for a day or two, cook under the stars, and head back with a cooler full of game and stories to laugh about. But we got something else. We drove in 2 pickups and parked near an overgrown path that wasn't on any GPS. From there, we hiked 3 miles into the grove and found a clearing just big enough for tents and a small fire. That's when I noticed the silence. No birds. No insects. Not even the wind. Just quiet. Too quiet. I remember saying to Ray, "Feels like the woods are holding their breath." He just shrugged and said, "Makes hunting easier." We split into pairs. Ray and I took the ridge while Joel and Ben headed toward the low ground near the stream. It was still early afternoon, maybe around 3, when Ray stopped and sniffed the air. "You smell that?" he asked. I did. It was foul. Like spoiled meat mixed with rust. Thick enough to make you gag. Before I could respond, we heard a sharp snap up ahead. But it wasn't a branch, it sounded wet. Like something tearing. We raised our rifles and waited. But nothing moved. No birds flew. Not even the wind shifted. After a few tense minutes, we decided to head back to the clearing. That's when the real nightmare began. Joel was pacing when we got there. Ben was missing. Joel looked pale and shaken. He was just behind me, he kept saying. I turned to check the trail, looked back, and he was gone. No sound, no sign, nothing. We figured he must have wandered off or got turned around, so we grabbed flashlights and spread out in pairs again. I stuck with Ray, and we covered the east section of the grove. That's when we started finding the trees. Some of them had massive claw marks carved deep into their bark, 6, maybe 7 feet off the ground. The kind of scratches no bear or wild cat makes. And they weren't fresh either. Some were old, weathered. Others were new. Like whatever did it had been doing it for a long time, and was still around. About 30 minutes in, we found Ben's flashlight. It was on, fully charged, and standing upright on a tree stump. No scratches, no mud, just placed there. Like someone, or something, wanted us to find it. That's when Joel lost it. He started saying, "Someone's watching us." I swear I saw something behind me. Something tall. Ray tried to calm him down, but even he looked uneasy. We built a fire that night, even though we were low on wood. No one wanted to sleep. Around 2 a.m., we heard it. Footsteps. Heavy, slow, deliberate. Ray grabbed his rifle and called out, "Ben? That you?" But there was no response. Just those steps circling our camp. That's when we saw the figure. It stood just beyond the firelight, tall and motionless. Its body was thin, maybe 8 feet tall, with limbs that didn't look human. Its eyes, or maybe just reflections, glowed a dim red, like embers in the dark. Joel raised his gun, but Ray held him back. "Don't," he whispered. "We don't know what it is." The figure tilted its head slowly, like it was studying us. Then, without a sound, it stepped back into the woods and vanished. We didn't sleep that night. By sunrise, we packed up and started heading out, but Hollow Grove didn't want us to leave. The paths we had marked were gone. Trees looked different. Our compasses stopped working. Joel began to mutter to himself, saying he saw Ben walking between the trees, smiling at him. He swore on everything he loved that Ben was there, staring at him from the dark. We followed his shouts and stumbled upon a torn piece of Ben's jacket, stuck to a branch 10 feet up. No blood. No body. Just fabric, clean and dry. We walked in silence after that, using the sun to guide us. Eventually, after what felt like hours, we stumbled out of the woods near where we had parked. None of us spoke during the drive back. We filed a missing persons report. Rangers searched for weeks. Nothing. No traces of Ben. No sign anyone had been in that part of the forest. They said we must have gotten lost. That we were confused. That it was the stress. But we knew what we saw. And what we felt. That place, it wasn't just forest. It was something alive. Watching. Waiting. Ray moved to another state. Joel never hunted again. He doesn't even go near trees anymore. And me? I still wake up some nights, thinking I hear footsteps outside my window. I check. There's nothing. But sometimes I catch a glimpse of tall shadows in the tree line near my backyard. And when I do, I don't go back to sleep. We never found Ben. We never returned to Hollow Grove. And we never told anyone the full story, not until now. If you ever hear about that place, if someone tells you about a spot where no animals make a sound and the woods feel too still, don't go. No deer is worth it. No adventure is worth what we saw. Because something in those woods doesn't want to be found. And it doesn't let go. People always assume working in the forest is peaceful, a job in nature, they say, like it's some kind of spiritual retreat. But the truth is, you can only appreciate the quiet until it becomes too quiet. Until the silence starts crawling into your skin. That's what happened to me. My name's Darren, and this is why I quit my job as a fire lookout in the Northern Pines and never went back. It was last summer when I got the offer, a 6-week assignment in one of the oldest, most remote towers out there. The station was Tower 6, located in a patch of state forest so deep it wasn't even on public hiking maps anymore. The rangers warned me that it was a little out there, but they didn't mention that the closest human would be 40 miles away. Most of the other towers were spaced out along the ridge, maybe 5 or 6 miles apart, but Tower 6? It was isolated. Alone. Like it was put there and then forgotten. I arrived in early June. They dropped me off by helicopter with 2 weeks' worth of supplies, a 2-way radio, and a sat phone for absolute emergencies only. The tower was about 60 feet high, old but sturdy, and the view from the top was incredible, an endless sea of green stretching in every direction. For the first couple of days, it was exactly what I expected. Peaceful. Beautiful. But then, things started happening. It began with little stuff. On the third night, I found my food locker open. I knew I had locked it. We're trained to, it's rule number 1 in bear country. But it wasn't broken or torn open, just unlatched. Like someone had unlocked it. I figured I messed up and shrugged it off. 2 nights later, I woke up to tapping on the tower door. 3 sharp knocks. The kind that make your heart freeze. I grabbed my flashlight and looked out the window, but there was nothing. No one. The forest was still. The kind of still that makes you feel watched. By the end of the first week, I started hearing voices. Not loud, not clear, but whispers, carried on the wind. Sometimes, I thought I heard my name. Darren. Just faint. Just enough to make me question my own sanity. I reported it over the radio to Tower 3, the closest one to mine, but got no response. Static. Then silence. On day 10, I spotted movement in the trees below. A figure. Tall. Pale. No clothes. Just, standing there. Looking up at me. I froze. Trained my binoculars on it. And the moment I did, it vanished. Gone in the blink of an eye. I didn't sleep that night. I tried calling HQ on the sat phone. No signal. Not even a flicker. The weather was clear. No storms. Nothing that would block a satellite. I even climbed down and walked around to try and reboot it manually. Still nothing. Then came the screams. They started at exactly 2:13 a.m. on day 12. Blood-curdling. Far off, but getting closer. A man's voice, screaming in agony, then abruptly cut off. I scanned the forest with my spotlight, but saw nothing. That morning, I found boot prints at the base of the tower. Not mine. Fresh. Deep. And leading into the woods. I should have quit then. I should have called for evac. But I didn't. I told myself I was imagining it. That isolation does things to your head. That was my biggest mistake. On day 14, the violence began. It started with the birds. Or, I should say, the lack of them. That day, there were none. Not one chirp. Not one flap of wings. Just silence. Then, that night, something hit the tower. Hard. The entire thing shook. I scrambled up from my bunk, heart pounding. Then came another crash, this time from below. I grabbed my flare gun, loaded it, and climbed up to the main deck. The trapdoor to the bottom floor was wide open. I shined my flashlight down and nearly dropped it. There were claw marks on the steps. Not from an animal. Long, deep gouges that looked human. 5 fingers. No nails. Just raw bone. I closed the hatch, bolted it shut, and stayed up until sunrise, listening to something breathing just beneath the floor. The final straw came on day 16. I woke up to find the window glass smeared with blood. Not splattered. Smeared. Like someone had taken their hands and drawn long, looping streaks across the glass. On the railing outside, something hung limp, a severed deer's head, eyes wide, tongue lolling. Its antlers had been snapped in half. Beneath it, the words, "Look below," were carved into the wood. My legs gave out. I sat on the floor for what must have been hours. Trying to breathe. Trying not to scream. When I finally stood up and looked over the edge of the railing, I saw it. Ben. Ben was a ranger who had gone missing 2 years ago. They never found his body. But there he was, or what was left of him, nailed to a tree about 30 yards from the tower. His face was gone. Just bone. But I recognized the patch on his torn uniform. A single branch ran through his chest, like he'd been hung there. Displayed. Like a warning. I snapped. I fired a flare into the air, screamed into the radio, and grabbed my emergency whistle. Nothing. No answer. Only wind and trees. That night, it came back. I never saw it clearly. Just, shape. 8 feet tall. Crawling. Twitching. Moving like broken bones and spider legs. It circled the tower, scraping its fingers along the steel legs, whispering in a voice that sounded like dozens speaking at once. It said my name. I lost consciousness at some point. Don't know when. I woke up at dawn, bleeding from my nose and ears, with scratch marks on my arms I didn't remember getting. I packed what little I could carry, climbed down, and ran. I didn't care about protocol. I didn't care about the job. I ran until I collapsed. I was found 2 days later by a rescue crew. Dehydrated. Delirious. I told them what I saw. They told me I'd suffered a psychotic break due to isolation stress. That the blood was animal. That the screams were in my head. But I know what I saw. A month later, they shut down Tower 6 permanently. The official reason? Structural instability. But I know that's a lie. I never went back to the forest. I never will. I see shadows at night sometimes, outside my house. I hear the whispers when it rains. I quit that job the day I escaped. Burned my uniform. Threw the radio into the river. And yet, I don't think it's done with me. So if someone ever offers you a job at a watchtower, especially one that nobody else wants, say no. Burn the letter. Walk away. Because there's something in those woods. And it's waiting. We were just 3 college students trying to take a break from our routines. Nothing wild. Just a camping trip, some time off the grid. But we went too deep. Too far. And what we saw out there, it didn't just scar us. It changed us. It was me, my best friend Neil, and his girlfriend Rose. We'd all had a rough semester and thought a weekend in the woods would help us unwind. Neil found some trail map online, a hidden gem in the forest where almost no one goes anymore. Real wilderness, he said. No signal, no noise, no people. That was the appeal, right? We hiked nearly 6 hours to reach this patch of untouched forest. No marked paths. Just tree after tree, and silence so heavy it felt like the forest was holding its breath. We set up camp near a shallow creek and built a fire. The sun dipped fast behind the trees, and by 8 p.m., it was pitch black. That's when we noticed it. There were no sounds. No crickets, no owls. Just a low, almost hum-like vibration in the air, like the forest itself was resonating. I thought it was my imagination, until Neil said, "Do you feel that too?" Around 1 a.m., as we sat around the fire, we started hearing movement in the trees. Not like a squirrel or raccoon, but something big. Walking. 2 feet. Slow, deliberate steps. The branches cracked. The leaves rustled. Then it stopped. We froze. Flashlights on. Nothing. Neil thought it might be another camper. I didn't buy that, we were too far in. No sane person would be this deep in the woods alone. Then came the voices. Low, distorted voices whispering from different directions. Sometimes behind us. Sometimes right next to us. But there was no one there. That's when Rose saw something. Her face went pale as she pointed toward a cluster of trees about 20 feet away. I turned and saw it, and I swear I wish I hadn't. It was tall. Unnaturally tall. At least 8 feet, maybe more. Skinny, but its arms were long, almost reaching the ground. Its skin looked stretched, leathery. The head, it had no face. Just a hollow opening where the face should have been. No eyes. No mouth. Just emptiness. And it twitched. Like it was trying to learn how to move like us. We bolted into the tent and zipped it shut. Idiots, right? As if that would protect us. Then the breathing started. Deep, heavy breathing, outside the tent. And the sound of something circling. I grabbed the hatchet. Neil clutched a flare. Rose was shaking, whispering prayers under her breath. Then something scraped the tent fabric, slow, deliberate. It didn't cut through. It just touched it. Like it wanted us to know it was there. Like it was toying with us. We stayed in that tent until morning. But morning didn't help. Our path was gone. I mean gone. The trail we came in on. It was like it never existed. Trees had shifted. Rocks had moved. Like the forest had reshaped itself overnight. We tried to retrace our steps. Spent hours walking in circles. That's when we saw the same burned tree, 3 times. Then came the screaming. It started distant, like a man in pain, echoing through the woods. But it wasn't human. The pitch changed mid-cry. Too deep. Too high. Then it started mimicking our voices. It called out in Rose's voice. Then Neil's. Then mine. From all around us. We ran. No direction. Just away. But I tripped, and in the chaos, we got separated. I fell into a dry creek bed, hit my head. Everything went black. When I woke up, it was dusk. My head was bleeding. My flashlight was dead. And I was alone. The forest didn't feel like a forest anymore. It felt like a trap. I wandered for what felt like hours. And then I saw them, Neil and Rose, standing up ahead in the clearing. Only, something was wrong. They weren't moving. Just standing perfectly still, side by side. Their heads tilted too far. Their hands twitching. I called out, and they turned in perfect sync. Their eyes were completely black. Their faces slack. They smiled, wide, unnatural, stretched way too far. Then they began walking toward me. I ran. I ran like I never had before. Eventually, and I still don't know how, I found a dirt road. Collapsed onto it, sobbing. About an hour later, a ranger jeep drove by. Apparently, they'd noticed a strange fire trail on satellite imagery and came to check. That's the only reason they found me. Neil and Rose were found the next day, 3 miles apart. They were alive, but wrong. Neil wouldn't speak. Rose kept whispering things that didn't make sense. They were both hospitalized for weeks. It's been almost 2 years now. I don't camp. I don't hike. I barely even go near trees. Sometimes I hear footsteps outside my apartment at night. Slow. Deliberate. I keep all the lights on. I sleep with the TV playing noise. Because silence feels too much like that forest. And deep down, I know, we were never meant to leave. It let us go. This time.